She wasn't always like that. When I first met Sophia, she was all denim jackets and nervous hands, the kind of girl who didn't know her own brilliance yet. She had just started as an intern at the creative agency where I worked, barely 24 and already exhausted by life. Her family had little. She once told me they used to share a single room for 5 people, and yet she carried herself like she'd built something from ashes. I respected that. I was drawn to it. Not in a swooping movie scene way. More like gravity. Quiet and slow and undeniable. I was 28 then, already leading campaigns, training fresh recruits, managing people who barely looked me in the eye unless they needed something. I noticed her during a pitch meeting. Her notes were in the wrong order, her laptop screen cracked in the corner. She stammered when she spoke, her voice breaking midway through a sentence about brand equity. But when I looked at her, really looked, there was fire under all that hesitation. She apologized to me afterward, cheeks flushed. I remember offering her a smile and saying, "Everyone burns their first pitch. But some still light the room." That night, I found her sitting in the stairwell with a cup of instant noodles. We talked until the janitor shut off the floor lights. That's how it started. Little things. Small flames. She moved in 6 months later. Her old apartment had a leak and a drunk landlord, and I had a place with heat and quiet. I bought her a new laptop when the old one finally died. She cried into my shirt, apologizing for being a burden, and I told her what love actually means. I helped her prep for meetings, taught her how to frame ideas, how to speak like her voice mattered. And eventually, it did. People started listening.
Vi uset to kiss under the flickering halve light outside my door. The one never fixed because the broken halbcylinder felt like OS.
We'd make cheap coffee at 2 a.m. and eat noodles straight from the pot, laughing under a single shared blanket like teenagers sneaking past curfew. Her hands always found mine in the dark. But light can change. She started staying late at work. Said she had extra tasks, or was helping with reports. Her phone buzzed more. Her replies got shorter. I convinced myself it was just stress. Deadlines. Pressure. I trusted her. How could I not? Then Alex entered the picture. Alex was our creative director, but she floated more than worked. She was the type of woman who never wore the same lipstick shade twice, who spoke in clipped metaphors and made interns cry without raising her voice. 40, sharp as a scalpel, always sipping vodka from a water bottle like no one knew. She was respected, feared, and always watching. Especially Sophia. At first, it was subtle. Alex would drop by our desks, linger near Sophia's shoulder during briefings. I'd catch her eyes flicking over Sophia's neckline, her smile curling too long at the corners. Then came the mentorship meetings.
The private invites.
The just us lunch breaks. Sophia swore it was professional. I wanted to believe her. But love makes you blind. One night, I waited outside after work, pretending to scroll my phone while the building emptied. I watched Alex and Sophia walk out together, laughing at something I wasn't part of.
Alex tuchet her Arm.
Sophia didn't pull away. That was the first time I saw it, her eyes. They weren't mine anymore. Something inside her had shifted, hardened. She looked elevated, as if whatever had once grounded her to me had snapped loose. I didn't confront her that night.
Or the night after.
I told myself maybe I was overthinking it, that I was just tired. But deep down I knew. I never thought love could be bought with a title. Until I watched her change for it. Alex was the kind of woman who could turn a room silent just by walking into it. She had that magnetic coldness, the kind that made people straighten their backs and choose their words twice. Her heels always clicked too sharply against the polished floors. Her nails were always painted deep wine or matte black, like she dared you to find a chip. She smiled the way a blade glints before it cuts. When she first joined the agency, people whispered about her New York background, her old money connections, the campaigns she'd supposedly salvaged. The truth was no one really knew anything about her except that she had power. The kind you didn't question. At first, I'll admit, I admired her. Alex was controlled, intelligent, always 10 steps ahead. She didn't just play the game, she redesigned the board. But over time, I saw how she used that charm like smoke. She'd pull people in, flatter them with sharp attention, and when they got too close, she'd slice them open with the same smile. That's exactly what she did to Sophia. It started with compliments. "You've got instinct," I heard her say once as she leaned over Sophia's shoulder during a pitch review. "Raw and unfiltered. I like that." Her voice was low, calculated, like she wanted those words to live inside Sophia's chest. Then came the lunches. At first, they were framed as mentorship. "Just guiding her," Alex told HR once. But I knew the difference between mentorship and possession. She began isolating Sophia in quiet corners, sliding her into meetings she hadn't earned. I would walk into the break room and see them laughing at something private, something whispered, something I wasn't part of. Sophia never told me what they talked about. And I stopped asking, mostly because I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Then the big project opened up, the brand relaunch for a high-profile luxury client. It was the kind of account that could make or break a career. I had seniority. I had history. I had pitched 3 of the 4 campaigns that brought in our largest revenue the previous year. Everyone expected my name on the lead brief. It wasn't. The morning they made the announcement, I was halfway through my second coffee, reviewing notes, already planning timelines in my head. Then Alex walked into the conference room, all confidence and perfume, and said, "Sophia will be leading this one." There was a pause in the room. Even Sophia looked startled for half a second. Then she smiled, small, practiced, and said thank you. I didn't speak until the meeting ended. When we were alone, I asked her, "Did you know?" She shook her head too quickly. "No." She told me just before the meeting. "You accepted it." "I deserved it, Emma," she said, her voice soft but sharp underneath. "Just because you've been here longer doesn't mean I can't lead. You're not the only talented one." That cut deeper than I expected. "You think I'm jealous?" She looked away. "A little, maybe." It wasn't just a fight. It was a crack. One that let the cold start to seep in. After that, everything changed. She stayed later, even on nights we'd made plans. She stopped sleeping over. Her messages became shorter, her presence more polite. Like I was a colleague she'd once liked. Nothing more. Then the gossip started. "You can't work in a place like ours and keep secrets for long." Someone from the finance team mentioned that Alex and Sophia were seen at a private dinner spot downtown. Just the 2 of them, long after office hours. Another said they'd overheard Alex booking a suite under her name but with Sophia's guest pass. At first, I refused to believe it. Not Sophia. Not her. She used to cry in my lap about women like Alex. About bosses who used attention like bait, who dangled power just to pull someone into their bed. I remember holding her once after she came home from a networking event, shaking, telling me, "I just want to be seen for my work, not for what I could give someone in a hotel room." Now, she was laughing in that woman's office. I didn't even know she'd moved out until I came home one day and found the keys on the kitchen counter. No note. No goodbye. Her side of the closet was empty. The coffee mug she always used, my gift from a trip to Prague, was gone. So I stopped trying to reach her. I watched instead. She started dressing differently, sleek blazers, expensive perfume. Her laugh grew louder, her steps more certain. She stopped looking over her shoulder. And when our eyes met in meetings, she didn't flinch anymore. She looked right through me. I used to think silence was the absence of sound. But now I know. Silence is the weight of someone choosing not to come home. It was a Thursday. Late enough that the halls were silent, the overhead lights humming with that low, tired buzz they make after most people have gone home. I had stayed behind to collect a forgotten file. Something small, something stupid, something I can't even remember now. It doesn't matter what brought me there. Only what I saw. Their office door wasn't fully closed. Just slightly ajar. Enough to let a sliver of warm light bleed into the hallway. Enough to let me hear the soft clinking of glasses and the low hum of a laugh that didn't belong to Alex. Sophia's laugh. I don't know what made me stop. Maybe I already knew. Maybe some part of me had been waiting for this moment. I stepped quietly, like the floor might betray me. When I reached the doorway, I saw it, her, leaning against Alex's desk, one heel off, wine glass in hand. Alex was close. Too close. Her hand rested casually at Sophia's hip, her fingers brushing the fabric of her shirt like it was something she owned. Sophia was smiling, laughing at something Alex had just said, cheeks flushed the way they used to flush for me. Then Alex reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind Sophia's ear. It was such an intimate gesture. Small. Inconsequential. But it shattered something in me. I must have made a sound, or maybe it was just instinct. Alex turned her head and looked straight at me. She didn't flinch. She didn't even move her hand. Sophia did. She straightened, pulled back just enough to create space, but not enough to change the truth of what I'd seen. She looked at me like I was the one interrupting something sacred. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked away. The next morning, she found me before I could even pour my coffee. She stood in front of my desk, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "We need space," she said. "Not I'm sorry. Not it's not what you think. Just that, cold and clean. We haven't been good for a while," she added, as if that made it easier. As if that made it mine to carry. I stared her. Waiting for something human. Something real. Instead, she looked at her phone. And left. I held it together until I made it to my car. Then the spiral came. I sat there for an hour, maybe 2, hands shaking on the steering wheel. I played voice notes she'd left me a year ago. Ones where she told me I was her home. Her anchor. Her reason for believing in something better. I knew the words by heart, but I listened anyway, as if hearing them from her mouth again might unmake what I saw. It didn't. I drove aimlessly for hours that night. Ended up by the water, parked along the edge of a pier, clutching a bundle of letters I'd written her over the years. Most of them never sent. Just things I wrote when I couldn't say the words out loud. They smelled like old paper and hope. I lit them on fire one by one, watching the flames curl the edges of our story, turning confessions into ash. I stopped texting her after that. Stopped calling. But I didn't stop watching. I couldn't help it. I needed to see what she'd become. A week later, a company press release went out. The project, the one I was supposed to lead, the one she took instead, was being hailed as Alex's visionary masterpiece. The official blog called it a triumph of mentorship and bold creative risk. Sophia's name was barely mentioned. Just a side note, executed with the help of junior strategist Sophia M. And yet there she was. Standing next to Alex in the attached photo, smiling in a sharp new blazer. Her eyes didn't look shy anymore. Or soft. They looked sculpted. A woman carved by approval, finally getting the light she'd always wanted. But it wasn't her light. It never was. She had sold something to stand there. And I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't just our love she'd betrayed. It was everything I gave her to survive. The late nights coaching her on how to speak with authority. The hours helping her fix slides, rewrite pitches, reframe her ideas so they sounded like they came from someone who believed in herself.
The encouragement. The quit lifting.
The belief. I built her spine. Now she uses it to walk away from me. I didn't cry after that night. There was no more pleading with the universe, no more curling up with old memories and wondering what I could have done differently. That part of me, the part that hoped, that forgave, that loved blindly, burned away beside those letters. What was left was clarity.
Cold, sharp, purposefull clarity.
I began watching in earnest, not with the desperation of someone heartbroken, but with the focus of someone studying a machine that had failed and needed dismantling. I saw the cracks in Alex's armor that no one else dared to look for. I paid attention to patterns, her late-night meetings, the people she favored, the way she always left the building an hour after Sophia. I knew where to look because I had built the same path Sophia walked. And I kept receipts. Everything leaves a trace in a corporate world that pretends to forget. Emails. Calendar invites. Office badge logs that showed Sophia entering Alex's office at midnight and leaving long after the janitor's shift ended.
Security footage.
Nothing explicit, but enough implication to make the air hum with suspicion that I had a friend in HR, one who owed me a favor from a time long before Alex arrived. Quietly, she confirmed the rumors. Alex was already under scrutiny. She had a history. Small complaints.
Meiner Investigations. Noting Eva Stuck.
But the file existed.
Sin, Dusty, Entweiting for more.
I became more careful than I'd ever been in my life. I copied emails to a hidden drive. Took screenshots of messages Alex sent Sophia. Comments about her body dressed as empowerment, backhanded compliments wrapped in emoji-laced professionalism. I saved every version of the campaign I had worked on, the one Alex took and rebranded as her own, and compared them line by line. Then I started leaking.
Not all et once.
Not enough to create panic. Just enough to make people whisper. An anonymous email to HR with a timestamped screenshot of Sophia's late-night office visits. A quiet message to a client, an old one I still had a rapport with, attaching the original draft of the pitch Alex claimed as hers. My name was in the metadata. The opening line was my exact phrasing. And another email. This one to the board. Carefully worded. Professional. Emotionless. It included a brief summary of events, attached with evidence of concern, and a recommendation that an ethics review be conducted regarding favoritism and misconduct. No name signed at the bottom. Just truth. By the time the rumors turned to meetings and then to quiet internal interviews, I had already wiped my tracks. I wasn't looking for a confrontation. I wanted a reckoning. But of course it found me anyway. It was a Wednesday when she showed up, Sophia. At the bar I always went to after late shifts, tucked into the corner booth where the music didn't reach and the bartender didn't ask questions. She looked tired. Nervous. Her lipstick was smudged at the corners like she'd had a drink before she even arrived. She sat across from me like she had the right to. Like we were still us. "Stop," she said, her voice quiet. "Please." I didn't answer. She leaned in, desperate. "I don't know what you're doing, but you're hurting both of us." I laughed. I hadn't meant to, but it came out anyway. Sharp. Short. Dry. "You think I'm hurting you?" I asked, finally meeting her eyes. Her lip quivered just slightly. "This isn't the way, Emma." "The way." I repeated, leaning forward until she couldn't look away. "You stopped me the moment you chose her hands over mine." Her shoulders stiffened. She looked away, toward the bar. Maybe for an exit. Maybe for courage. "You don't know what it's been like," she whispered. "No," I said. "I only know what it was like when you were mine. And I know exactly who you became when you weren't." She opened her mouth like she wanted to defend herself. But she didn't. Couldn't. She stood slowly, like the weight of truth had finally caught up to her. And without another word, she left. I didn't turn to watch her go. She had made her choice. She climbed the ladder I built. I just made sure it collapsed under her heels. It happened faster than I expected. One morning, Alex simply wasn't there. No dramatic exit, no final meeting, no explanation offered to the wider team, just a curt internal email from HR. Effective immediately, Alex Remington has been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. Her office was locked by noon. Her nameplate taken down by 3. The door remained shut for weeks, like a mausoleum to everything she had pretended to be. There was no announcement about why. No list of accusations. But people whispered. You don't need loud scandal in corporate spaces. Just silence in the wrong places. By the end of the week, Sophia was called in for questioning. HR went through everything. Her chats with Alex, meeting logs, time-stamped messages that blurred the line between professional mentoring and something else. They didn't fire her. But they did something worse. They erased her. Her name was quietly removed from the big campaign she'd taken over. My campaign. Her access was limited. Her profile no longer appeared on the agency's leadership board. They gave the credit to someone else entirely. A woman I had trained from her first day. I watched that woman present the final pitch in the main conference room, smiling nervously but proudly, as the client applauded and senior management nodded their approval. Sophia stood at the back, half-shadowed, half-forgotten. She didn't look angry. She looked small. Diminished. Like the light she had chased for so long was finally shining, but not on her. And me? I didn't gloat. I didn't raise a glass. Didn't tell anyone, I told you so. Didn't say a word. I just watched. I watched Alex disappear, the same way she had appeared, without apology.
I večet Sophia unraffel kvitli, like a silk treat slowly pulled from the hem of so meeting on so beautiful.
I went back to my work. Quiet. Focused. Detached. But the phone calls began soon after.
First, a missed call.
Then another. A string of messages left unread. Then a voicemail, one I almost didn't listen to. But something in me needed to hear what her voice sounded like when she had nothing left to offer. I played it on speaker while watering my plants. Her voice was low, tired.
Softatan I rememberet.
I didn't know it would end this way. I didn't think. A pause.
I miss you, Emma. I miss the way you used to look at me. Another pause.
Just her breathing. Then, I'm sorry. That was it.
I let the message end.
Let her voice fade into the room, just one more echo among many. Then I pressed delete. No reply.
No second chances. No salvaging the ruins.
She didn't just break me.
She broke the woman I used to be.
The girl who forgave too quickly. The woman who thought loyalty was enough to keep someone from wandering. The partner who stayed silent because love was supposed to endure anything. That version of me died the day I saw her lean into Alex's hand like it belonged there. What rose from those ashes wasn't soft. I became someone who doesn't beg. Who doesn't wait for apologies wrapped in nostalgia.
Who dus entlädt gilt masquerade es love.
She made her choice. I simply made sure it had consequences. It's strange how quiet life becomes after the storm. Months passed. The agency felt like a chapter from a book I no longer needed to reread. I'd resigned not long after everything fell apart, not out of shame or defeat, but because it had served its purpose. It was never the endgame, just a battlefield. Now I work freelance. Choose my own clients. Set my own hours. My days are slower, cleaner. Mornings begin with black coffee and open windows. I sleep better. I speak less. But when I do, it matters. There's peace in knowing I don't have to prove anything anymore. Not to anyone. Not even to her. Sophia, from what I've heard, works at a small startup now. Something new. Something forgettable. Alex is gone. Off the grid, name scrubbed from every press release and bio. No one talks about her in the industry anymore. She's a shadow without a silhouette. And Sophia? She's alone. I don't say that with cruelty. Just fact. I know, because I saw her again. A gallery opening. The kind of creative event where free wine and polite compliments fill the room faster than the art ever does. I was invited as a mentor, a keynote for the up-and-coming generation of women creatives. I didn't know she'd be there. But when our eyes met across the room, I didn't flinch. She approached slowly, like someone walking barefoot across glass. Her hair was longer now. Her posture less certain. She held a glass of wine like it might spill any second. "Emma," she said. I waited. "You were right," she whispered. "About all of it." I looked at her for a long time. Not with anger. Not with longing. Just the kind of stillness that comes when you realize something no longer owns a single piece of you. I smiled. Not bitter. Just powerful. She waited, maybe for forgiveness, maybe for a thread of the girl she used to love. But that girl was long gone, buried beneath a silence that had taught me everything. I didn't need to respond. My presence was answer enough. Eventually she turned away. And I let her. Love has a way of twisting in your hands when you hold it too tightly. It can splinter, bleed, betray. And when it does, you either let it destroy you, or you let it forge you into something else. Betrayal didn't ruin me. It redefined me. It taught me that loyalty without boundaries is just self-sacrifice. That silence, when wielded with precision, can be the sharpest weapon of all. I never screamed. Never posted. Never exposed anyone publicly. I just let the truth sit where it was always meant to, undeniable. And as the gallery lights dimmed and new voices filled the room, I walked to the front, handed a portfolio to a young intern with shaking hands, and reminded her that her voice mattered. That she didn't need anyone else to name her worth. Because here's the thing. I was never just the lover. Never just the woman left behind. I was the one training the next generation. And now, I'm the boss. They took my heart. I took their future.